Amulets. What I remember, what I feel, that's what interests me. As soon as the plastic plate and spoon appeared, the world became disposable. Everything became disposable, light. Plastic tableware is profitable, but glass is not. Glass is a luxury, and food in it costs more. And I don't like that. I don't like disposable things. The pollution they cause to nature confirms that I am right. Jews believe that 90% of diseases come from the evil eye. Can this be ignored? I believe the answer is no. This chapter is published separately from my book, Jewish Traditional Medicine. The reason is that I did not want government bodies, with whom I am negotiating the official recognition of Jewish traditional medicine at the state level in Canada, to claim that the use of amulets and talismans is outdated, unproven, unscientific. That using amulets and talismans misleads patients and causes them not to seek help from licensed state doctors in time. That belief in amulets and talismans undermines trust in licensed doctors. And that when a person does not seek professional help on time, it only worsens their condition. This cannot be denied. Everything should be done in a timely manner, and everything should be approached with caution. The doctor's motto, "First, do no harm," has never been cancelled. I am a doctor. 46 years ago I completed 7 years of medical university and received a Doctor of Medicine degree in Ukraine. Since then, I have repeatedly undergone further training and specialization in various fields of medicine. I am a doctor in more than the third generation, my wife is a doctor in more than the third generation, and based on our personal medical experience, and on the experience of our ancestors who were doctors, we believe that anything that helps a person avoid illness or recover has the right to exist and to be used. Modern medicine, when introducing a new drug, primarily considers the long-term results of its use. Sometimes the time frames considered span many years. But that is just a moment compared to the long-standing practice of using amulets and talismans. If a sick person loses faith in recovery, it is a sign that they will lose their life, regardless of the most professional and modern treatment. Or they will live dependent on medications and machines. Like in Believ's sci-fi story, Professor Dowell's Head. Yes, modern medicine has made great progress. But are our current achievements truly progress? Isn't everything we now call progress simply a long-forgotten past? A good example is Jewish traditional medicine itself, the revival of which we are now engaged in. In general, when we talk about progress, we must be very careful. We must consider the reference point from which we evaluate whether we have progressed or regressed. Usually, the point of reference is the origin of man. If we believe that we, humans, are God's creation, then we are in great regression. Our actions have distanced us from the Creator. We do everything to ruin the health we were given, to ruin the planet Earth and make it unfit for life. If we evolved from monkeys, Darwin's theory, then I fully agree that we are moving toward progress and have gone far ahead of our ancestor, the monkey. Therefore, to avoid complications with the official registration of Jewish traditional medicine, I published this chapter separately from the main book. The expeditions that my doctor ancestors undertook through Jewish towns in Ukraine, Poland, and Germany, they got acquainted with Jewish doctors practicing Jewish traditional medicine. The diaries left by my ancestors describe, among other things, the amulets and talismans used for disease prevention. The principles of creating and individually selecting amulets were noted. I want to emphasize, amulets for disease prevention, to prevent illness. Amulets for treating diseases were not created by the Jewish doctors practicing Jewish traditional medicine. To write this chapter, I had to study a lot of literature about Jewish amulets, Kameas. I consulted with well-known rabbis, see my book, Jewish Traditional Medicine. I realized I might be misunderstood if I published this chapter within the main book. Therefore, I officially declare that Jewish traditional medicine is a modern folk Jewish medical practice that has stood the test of time and deserves recognition at the modern official level. Like traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Indian medicine, traditional Vietnamese medicine, Christian traditional medicine, and other forms of traditional medicine. This chapter on amulets is published separately as a traditional millennia-old practice of the Jewish people. I want to revive the creation of amulets according to the recipes and rules described in the diaries. An amulet possesses miraculous power and protects its bearer from illness and the evil eye. The amulet is strictly individual and consists of 3 components. The Talmud distinguishes 2 components in amulets, but in the descriptions I received, there are 3. 2 of the components fully correspond to what is written in the Talmud. But considering that nowadays only one component, the written part, is usually used as an amulet, I adhere to the rules of ancient practice. The amulets we create possess miraculous power and protect the bearer from illness and the evil eye from the moment of their creation. They are strictly individual and must always be carried on the body. In Judaism, a person does not rely on an object possessing protective power, but relies on God, who sanctifies this object with His grace. Therefore, when the amulet is on the body and faith in God is present in the soul, we know that God Himself is with us. Divine grace is capable of sanctifying not only human souls with its presence, but also objects, things, places associated with a special manifestation of God. To the prophet Moses, during the manifestation of God in the burning bush, a thorn bush engulfed in flame but not consumed, it was said, "Take off your shoes from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground." Everything sanctified by divine grace is holy. This creates a spiritual atmosphere beneficial for a person and protective against enemy influences. A mandatory sign of an amulet is wearing it on the body, whereas a talisman is simply carried with oneself. Jewish amulets have always been considered so effective that they were bought and used by followers of other religions. Ironically, many Christian knights who persecuted Jews in their homelands relied on Jewish amulets to grant them magical protection during the Crusades. A Jewish amulet is an object believed to possess miraculous power and protect its bearer from illness and the evil eye. The Talmud distinguishes 2 components in amulets. In Talmudic texts the amulet is referred to as Kamea or Kamea. The written part and the Kamea shell ikarin, meaning the part made from roots and other plant parts. The written part was written on parchment. It contained 1 or more quotations, usually from the Torah, but by itself did not possess full holiness. Only the correctly combined 2 parts together have holiness. The texts written on amulets are not mentioned in the Talmud. In later times, the texts on the amulet usually corresponded to its specific purpose. On amulets intended for protection from the evil eye, the words, Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Eli Ayin, Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring, often appear. Sometimes, instead of the full phrase, an abbreviation is used, consisting of the first letters of the sentence. This quote is from Jacob's blessing to his sons before his death. The magical power of this phrase becomes clear in the context of rabbinic literature. The Babylonian Talmud states, "Just as fish are covered by water and the evil eye has no power over them, so too the evil eye has no power over the descendants of Joseph. An eye that did not desire what did not belong to it is not subject to the evil eye." Here, the homonyms ayin, eye, and ayin, spring, are played on, and the meaning of the biblical quote changes. Joseph rises not above the spring, but above the eye, that is, above the evil eye. This clearly alludes to the story with Potiphar's wife, whose advances Joseph rejected. There is also likely an allusion to another story preserved in several rabbinic sources. Joseph, noted for his great beauty, would walk through the city streets and attract the attention of all the Egyptian women, who would throw rings and bracelets at him, trying to catch his gaze. But Joseph resisted temptation, and this too gave him power against the evil eye. In magical tradition, Joseph functions as an ancestral protector and provides protection to those who appeal to him for help against the evil eye. These are the texts used against the evil eye. Jewish amulets often feature various names of God written on them, sometimes with rearranged letters. The Talmud prohibits writing and reading verses from the Torah for enchanting an already existing illness, but permits writing and reading them to prevent a possible future illness. However, the attempt to use biblical texts for healing purposes can be traced in Jewish tradition from the earliest written testimonies. Verses from Psalms and the Shema Yisrael prayer, "Hear, O Israel," Deuteronomy 6 verse 4, are found on synagogue walls and ritual vessels from the 5th to 7th century CE, discovered in Judea, Mesopotamia, and Samaria. Already in the Mishnah, 3rd century CE, there is a prohibition on using biblical verses in folk medicine. Among those who will be denied a share in the world to come, the Mishnah names those who recite incantations over wounds using words from the book of Exodus. "I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you." This prohibition indicates that such use of biblical texts for healing was already a developed practice among some Jews. Rabbinic literature even mentions specific names for certain psalms, indicating their use in healing: Song of the Wounded, Song Against Demons, and others. In the Middle Ages, special lists called Shirmush Tehillim, use of psalms, appeared, indicating which psalm to read for various illnesses, misfortunes, and needs. Furthermore, the Torah itself, and later any other book written in Hebrew letters and possessing sacred status, began to serve the function of an amulet as such from Talmudic times. The Babylonian Talmud discusses that a king should have 2 Torah scrolls, one to keep in the treasury and another to carry with him at all times. In Ashkenazi tradition, the most popular books that served as amulets were the Psalms and the Book of Raziel, 1st edition, Amsterdam, 1701. They were published in the format of tiny booklets and often reprinted in huge quantities. These books were unlikely meant for reading, as their letters were extremely small. It is known that these were placed in a newborn's cradle to protect the child from illness and the evil eye. On the title page of the Book of Raziel, it was often written that whoever keeps this book at home will protect the house from fire. Thus, in some Jewish communities, the Holy Scripture underwent a series of transformations and turned from a sacred text into a sacred object. In turn, quotations from the Holy Scripture inscribed on other amulets, parchment, paper, silver, etc., increased their magical power. Of particular interest is the principle behind the selection of certain quotes, their intended recipient, and the functions attributed to them. I will speak primarily about the written part of amulets from Eastern Europe, Jewish shtetls in Ukraine. They are well represented in various collections of Jewish art. Moreover, printed and handwritten collections of spells and incantations, Sifrei Segulet, assist in their study, often including direct instructions, how to make amulets, what to write on them, and what certain abbreviations of biblical verses mean. Kabbalah even contains prescriptions for making amulets. After the expulsion of Jews from Spain, the use of amulets spread among Eastern European Jews. The Vilna Gaon also permitted the use of amulets. While disputes sometimes arose in Jewish communities concerning amulets, they were always limited to the inscriptions used, and the permissibility of using amulets itself was never questioned. In Eretz Israel, faith in amulets continues today, spreading from the Kabbalah center of Safed. Among Jews of Eastern communities, amulets remain widespread. Biblical verses and names appear on amulets only as initial letters, making them often difficult to decipher. Symbols found on amulets include triangles, squares, and other geometric figures. Images of the Star of Solomon or Magen David are common. There are also graphic symbols known as Kabbalistic script, often indecipherable. Orthodox Jews disapproved of amulets primarily due to their aversion to anything remotely associated with magic. They feared the secrecy of amulet creation and suspected idolatry might be involved. Some amulets are permitted to be worn, others strictly forbidden. A passage from one of the most authoritative Kabbalists of our time, Rabbi Yaakov Hillel, examines this in detail. Forbidden and permitted amulets, cameos, used for sorcery, acquiring wealth, power, success, and the like are strictly forbidden. If your prayers were not answered, it is your sins to blame. Do not wear amulets given by a non-Jew or even a Jew to help you gain power, wealth, or influence, lest you be like one who appeals to a prince after being refused by the king himself. Sefer Hasidim 11:14, only amulets meant to protect from illness or save lives are permitted. Amulets containing sacred texts or holy names. It is forbidden to write or print amulets containing sacred texts or names because it is forbidden to violate the Sabbath to save them from fire. Thus, the writer may become the cause of the Torah's words being burned, BT Shabbat 1:15b. However, an already written amulet may be used for protection from illness, but not for healing, because Torah words are not to be used for healing, are Yosef Karo, Beit Yosef, Ter, Arach Haim 179. The Torah was given to us as a remedy for the soul, not the body, Rambam, Mishnah Torah, Avodah Zarah 11:12. Amulets containing only abbreviations or hints at verses and names may be written and used for healing. Rabbeinu Yonah believed that amulets written by non-experts are forbidden as they may partially resemble Canaanite customs, Shulchan Aruch, Arach Haim 301:27. Amulets in our time, today, the Ari, Arizal, prohibited all amulets containing the holy names of the Creator or angels, even those written by experts, because they often contain errors. The correct names are no longer known, and using incorrect names is dangerous, Shar Ruach HaKodesh 136. Rabbi Guttmacher allowed amulets written as prayers or appeals to the Creator under two conditions. 1. If the letters or words are intentionally rearranged to avoid using Torah words for healing, and 2. If they do not contain holy names or names of angels. Some religious authorities warned even against studying anything related to amulets. If a person knows how to write amulets, it will be very hard for him to stop. To avoid the temptation to earn money or fame through amulets, stay away from any knowledge of them and the books about them. Ya'elzu Hasidim 11:72, in times when many used names and amulets for personal gain, money or glory, rabbis collected and buried such books, are Yosef ben Walid, Shemo Yosef 272. There were reasons for such drastic actions. The Talmud states that King Hezekiah buried the Sefer Harifut written by King Solomon, Barakat 10b. Rishonim provide two explanations. According to Rashi, people stopped asking the Creator for help and sought healing from the book instead. According to Rambam, Solomon described the healing properties of certain star configurations in his book to showcase the Creator's wisdom, but when people began to believe in astrology and worship stars, King Hezekiah buried the Sefer Harifut, commentary on Mishnah, Pesachim 4. By the time Jews came out from under Babylonian rule, amulets had become a natural part of everyday life. Many rabbis allowed wearing amulets on Shabbat. Rarely would an amulet have the word healing written on it, but amulets requesting protection from various illnesses were common. Jewish amulets derived their power from being made with Hebrew letters and phrases from the Torah, considered to be God's words. Blessings found in biblical texts were actively used in amulets. Perhaps the most popular blessing was from Deuteronomy, "Blessed shall you be when you come in and blessed shall you be when you go out." This was written on amulets placed near doors, meant quite literally. Another commonly found biblical blessing was, Yevrikeka Adonai Veishmereka. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. These words form the priestly blessing, Birkat Kohanim. They are recited by the cantor in the synagogue before the Kohanim give their blessing, lifting their hands in a special manner while the congregation averts their gaze or lowers their eyes because divine radiance is said to emanate from the priests at that moment, and looking at them could cause blindness. The appearance of this blessing on amulets can be explained for several reasons. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Secondly, the heightened status of the Book of Numbers in synagogue worship plays a special role. Often, amulet makers do not just use this quote or its abbreviation but encode the text, turning it into a strange sequence of letters, Anaktam Patam. In general, secret writing is often found on amulets. The most common technique is replacing each letter in a biblical verse with the next letter of the alphabet. Some names of God and angels are written on amulets in a special script that differs from regular script by having unique marks, circles and ovals, at the ends of letters. Why is secret writing used on amulets? possibly to emphasize the amulet maker's possession of hidden knowledge, giving the amulet special authority. Moreover, the secret script may be intended to deceive evil forces. Demons cannot read the amulet and are forced to waste time and energy deciphering the complex abbreviation instead of harming people. The power of amulets against plague and fire is enhanced through their graphic design. In fire protection amulets, the final words, "and the fire ceased," are repeated multiple times, each time on a new line, shortening by one letter, until only the final letter remains, graphically conveying the extinguishing of fire. Plague amulets are usually structured as a table where each letter of a biblical quote is placed in a column next to a letter from the name of God. The magical power of the verse is thus strengthened by invoking the Almighty. In addition to blessings and good wishes, many biblical quotes used in amulets contain keywords meaning protection, guard, help, or healing. These words are either directed at God or emphasize divine protection that the wearer hopes for. A written portion of an amulet with a psalm verse, "He who watches over Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your keeper," was traditionally hung on the wall near a woman in labor. Other popular quotes include, "In your help I trust, O Lord," or, "O God, heal her." Many such phrases in the Bible already had a protective character and were actively used in later Jewish magical practices. Throughout Eastern Europe, it was customary to hang protective written parts of amulets, called shmiras, from shmira, protection, near windows and doors. These were always abbreviations from biblical verses or prayer formulas. One folk spell and incantation collection describes such amulets. Kabbalists wrote that in a new house where no one has ever lived, many demons, mazakim, reside. To protect from them, people ask scribes, sopharim, for special amulets, which are placed above doors and windows. Above the door, they would write in abbreviation a quote from Exodus, say, "It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians and spared our homes." And the people bowed and worshipped. This is followed by another quote, "And the men at the door of the house were struck with blindness, from the least to the greatest, so that they wore themselves out trying to find the door." Both quotes contain the keyword house and refer to events in biblical history, drawing an invisible line between mythological past and the present. The first quote acts as a substitute for the Passover sacrifice, whose blood was smeared on the doorposts of Jewish homes the night the Lord struck down the Egyptians but spared the Israelites. The second quote refers to the story of the sinful inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, who could not find the entrance to Lot's house because the angels of the Lord had struck them with blindness. These quotes are intended to protect the home from strangers and enemies. It was customary to write another apotropaic biblical text on the windows, "No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling." The main difference between Jewish amulets and those of other cultures lies in two elements: the absence of images and the presence of only symbols. This is the written part of the amulet. The other part, Kamea shel ikarin, meaning the second part of the amulet made from roots and other plant parts, was created based on the resemblance of the plant to the condition and modality of a specific person. See my book Jewish Traditional Medicine. The amulet was created as an object believed by Jews to protect its owner from various misfortunes, primarily disease prevention, and thus consisted of the Word of God and the pharmacy of God. Biblical quotes enhance the apotropaic properties of amulets, raising the sacred status of the items they are inscribed on. For inscriptions, those biblical quotes are selected that already carry increased significance in the biblical text itself. These are usually phrases from blessings and prayers. A crucial factor in choosing a specific verse for the written part of the amulet is the presence of keywords associated with the amulet's function: home protection, healing, fire suppression. Thus, texts that may already hold special magical semantics within the Bible or liturgy appear on amulets. A talisman, which exists only in the culture of other nations, not in Jewish culture, is something that mysteriously helps a person, bringing happiness and luck. In ancient times, such apotropeia, from Greek, turning away evil, were known. Objects attributed with magical powers to protect people, animals, and homes from evil forces. Typically, apotropea depicted terrifying deities, such as the Gorgon Medusa, or animals like lions. Fearing objects or phenomena of our world as bewitched, people turn to talismans as mystical protectors. Understanding the world magically, people used magical means for protection. If an amulet serves a purely protective function, a talisman is seen as an object that brings both protection and success. Among ancient peoples, talismans could be man-made or naturally occurring. A talisman could be a physical object or an image. Ancient people considered animal images, figurines, or body parts like claws or teeth as talismans and even tattooed them on their skin. These items were believed to transfer the animal's power. Some talismans were worn on the body, while others were simply carried or placed somewhere. Magical objects in this case could be figurines of deities or animals, stones, jewelry, coins, etc. Among Jews, wearing the amulet on the body is essential, whereas a talisman only needs to be carried or hung on the wall. There are general-purpose amulets and specific-purpose amulets. A specific amulet brings luck in only one area, for example, a love amulet won't attract money, and vice versa. A key distinction is that amulets are harder to make, take longer to adapt to the owner's aura, but once attuned, they work almost flawlessly. Today, amulets are widely used in alternative medicine for protection against the evil eye. The most famous talisman is the Hamsa, a hand with 5 fingers. Jews call it the Hand of Miriam. In Judaism, the Hamsa is also known as Yed HaHamsh, Hand of 5, or Hand of Miriam, named after Moses and Aaron's sister. It is associated with the 5 books of the Torah. Muslims call it the Hand of Fatima. Typically, the Hamsa is symmetrical, with thumb-like fingers on both sides, rather than anatomically correct. In Eastern traditions, it is depicted differently. The Jewish Hamsa includes the Star of David and the letter He. Yosef Haim of Baghdad, known as Ben Ish Hai, wrote that there is a custom to say the word Hamsa, meaning 5, to ward off the evil eye, and explained that for this reason many wear amulets shaped like a small hand with the letter He, whose numerical value is 5, written in its center. He did not see this symbol as problematic. As a result, wearing the Hamsa is widespread among Sephardic Jews. The Talmud states that the evil eye can only harm you if you worry about it excessively and give it power. If you ignore it, it cannot affect you. The Hamsa is used as a protective amulet against the evil eye. It can be found at the entrance to a home, in cars, on keychains, bracelets, and pendants. Often other symbols like fish, eyes, or the Star of David are placed in its center. Blue, especially light blue, is also considered protective. So many Hamsas are these colors or decorated with semi-precious stones in shades of blue and turquoise. Jewish Hamsas are often decorated with protective prayers such as Shema, Birkat HaBayit, blessing of the home, Tefilat HaDerek, traveler's prayer, or other Torah blessings. In Spain, Hamsas were widely used until the Episcopal Committee convened by Emperor Charles V in 1526 issued a ban on the Hand of Miriam and all right-hand-shaped amulets. The Kamea, a Jewish amulet and protective symbol, is mentioned in ancient sources. The Talmud and the Shulchan Aruch Halakhic Code outline practical rulings that allow carrying a Kamea in the public domain on Shabbat. This is due to the principle of life preservation, which overrides Sabbath laws. This example shows the serious importance attributed to the Kamea's protective properties. To avoid confusion, remember that religious objects used to fulfill commandments, such as tefillin and mezuzah, are not to be confused with amulets. The Torah does not command wearing or keeping amulets. Jews do not have a universally accepted custom of using them, although long-standing customs related to serving God may become obligatory over time. Moreover, some halakhic authorities, e.g., Rambam, disapproved of amulet use, warning that commoners might rely on the Kamea instead of heaven. Still, there is a tradition that a properly made Kamea can protect its bearer from illness and the evil eye. Most often, Kameas are made from parchment, silver, or other metals and contain quotes from the Tanakh, names of God and angels, Kabbalistic formulas, figures, and symbols. The Talmud also mentions plant-based Kameas. While they may contain names of God, Kameas do not possess the same holiness as Torah scrolls, tefillin, or mezuzahs. The effectiveness of a Kamea depends on the text and the manufacturing rules. Kameas are still widespread among Eastern Jewish communities, much less so among Ashkenazim. Various types of Kameas are used to protect mothers and infants from evil forces and diseases. They are usually placed on bedroom or nursery doors. Among Ashkenazim, a psalm text, Shir Hamalat, is often attached to a stroller or the child's clothing. Naturally, in this field, as in anything related to Kabbalah and mysticism, fraud and speculation are more common than in areas with clear legal boundaries, so in case of doubt, one should consult a rabbi. Jews have historically weathered epidemics better than their neighbors, which led to understandable confusion among others. Jewish religious law, halacha, includes numerous health-related instructions for disease prevention and care. In the early 20th century, Yehuda Yudel Rosenberg, a rabbi of Warsaw and later Toronto, wrote in his book of the angel Raphael, "In case of an epidemic, avoid catching cold and try to breathe clean air. Do not walk in damp areas, and if it's cold outside, keep your stomach and feet warm. Protect your abdomen with soft flannel. Avoid excessive drinking. Always eat a hearty breakfast with bread and don't overfill your stomach." He also recommended, every day, fill jugs with fresh running water and place one in each room. Draw the letter Tav with chalk on them. The angel of death marks those who are to die with the letter Tav, so here the angel might mistake the jug for a person and leave everyone alone. He also advised, if you store drinking water in a barrel and someone nearby dies, replace the water. The angel of death might have dipped his poisoned sword in it. Keep your apartment clean and free from bad smells. Pour quicklime in the toilet daily and use incense like rue to fumigate the home. Heat metal objects and clean them with vinegar. During epidemics, it was advised not to go outside from 6 to 7 in the evening, as that hour was believed to be governed by Mars, the malevolent planet. It is unclear today what exact time was meant, possibly the 6th to 7th hour after sunset, regardless of what modern clocks show. Rabbi Akiva Eiger recommended taking 9 mustard seeds daily during epidemics and drying a piece of bread on coals each day to carry in your pocket. The sages also advised eating a bit of garlic and onion after every meal during an epidemic to avoid getting sick. At that time, nothing was yet known about phytoncides, and neighbors would wrinkle their noses. The Jews smell like garlic. But that garlic helped them survive epidemics. It is especially interesting that Jewish sages in the Middle Ages already knew about social distancing. They said that the klippa, impure force, affecting the sick person spreads for several meters, so one should not approach an infected person. These methods and remedies helped our ancestors survive hundreds of epidemics in many countries over many centuries. The sages of Jerusalem sent a protective amulet to their European brethren, a magic square with a side of 24. This is the number of combinations of the letters of the name of the Almighty, which was meant to help during an epidemic. The amulet was a special table of letters that had to be copied in a special script, as scribes would copy sacred texts. This amulet became widespread in the Jewish shtetls of Ukraine. This is confirmed by members of the Ansky expedition and my ancestors in their diaries. Jews sought treatment from Baal Shems, masters of the name, healers who treated illnesses using amulets and incantations containing various names of the Almighty. The most well-known Baal Shem today is undoubtedly Israel ben Eliezer, the Baal Shem Tov. As archival documents show, the founder of Hasidism was the official Baal Shem of the Jewish community in Metzebiz and received a salary for it. While the Baal Shem Tov was only known in his native Podolia during his lifetime, another Baal Shem, Samuel Falk, 1710 to 1782, who settled in London, became world famous. Stories of the miracles performed by Falk were passed down orally. During a great fire that threatened a synagogue, Falk stopped the flames by writing 4 Hebrew letters, most likely the ineffable name of the Almighty, on the door. Rav Shalom Balshem said that the amulet sent by the Jerusalem sages could even be copied on the Sabbath, such was its power. Normally, Jews are not allowed to write on the Sabbath, unless it is necessary to save a human life. In one of the diary notebooks, see the book Jewish Traditional Medicine, a Balshem describes the Jerusalem amulet as a square, a magic square with a side of 24, this is the number of letter combinations of the name of the Almighty. In Kabbalah, counting begins from 0, so in this square, the side is 24, and there are 24 letter combinations. The paper with the sacred image undergoes special treatment. As a result, the paper with the sacred image acquires special properties and kashrut. This is the first part of the amulet. The second part is plant-based, 7 herbs from the pharmacy of God corresponding to a specific person. The selection is made based on the modalities and temperament of the person. The third part is a corresponding mineral or a combination of 2 minerals. The selection is made based on Jacob's blessing to the tribes of Israel. Kamea. This book contains an exact copy of the Jerusalem amulet. The image is made on paper specially treated according to a unique recipe with special ingredients. According to the records of conversations in Ukraine, Poland, and Germany between my ancestors, who were doctors, and rabbis from these Jewish towns, the rabbis stated that if the correct image of the Jerusalem amulet is made on special kosher paper, this paper is equivalent in quality to parchment, being impermeable to fats and moisture, it is considered the original. The base of the special paper treatment is specially obtained olive oil from Israel, the same kind used for temple lamps, along with other ingredients. One may believe or not believe in the power of the Jerusalem amulet, but it is very easy to test. Place this book with the amulet under your pillow at night before sleep and in the morning answer yourself the question, do you believe or not in the power of this amulet? As I wrote earlier, the amulet consists of 3 components. The Talmud distinguishes 2 components in amulets. But in the descriptions I received from expedition diaries to Jewish towns, there are 3 components. 2 of the components fully correspond to those mentioned in the Talmud. But considering that nowadays only 1 component is usually used as an amulet, the written part, the Talmud distinguishes 2 components in amulets. 1. The written part, in Talmudic texts, the amulet is referred to as Kamea or Kamea, and 2. The Kamea shel ikarin, which means a part made from roots and other parts of plants. The written part was made on kosher paper, paper that does not let through fats or moisture. It contained 1 or more quotations, usually from the Torah, but by itself it did not possess complete holiness. Holiness is only achieved when the 2 parts are properly combined. The texts written on amulets are not mentioned in the Talmud. For how the individual Kamea shel ikarin is composed, see my book Jewish Traditional Medicine.